Hey guys, I'm Prateek and welcome to the Uni Insider series. This is the show for aspirants looking to pursue a program from a foreign university. In the next half hour, you will get access to some amazing information like program details, university details, tips on how to get part time jobs, placement situation, and much more. Our guest for today's episode is Saalik Hakim. Saalik did his bachelor's in mass media from Mumbai University, post which he immediately joined the Masters in Management program at Australian National University. He graduated last year. Let's get to know all about the Masters in Management program at ANU. Hey Salik, it's a pleasure to have you on Uni Insider. So tell me, what were your reasons behind pursuing a Masters in Management degree?
Hi Prateek, it's amazing to be on your channel. So I completed my bachelor's in the year 2017. I did my bachelor's of mass media from a college in Mumbai, and after that, I wanted to propel my career towards being a brand manager or working in an advertising company. So I decided to go for my master's, which was MIM in marketing.
That's great. And let's talk a bit more on the Masters in Management program at ANU University. So, can you tell us what would be an ideal profile to get into the program?
Sure. I from my research that I did while searching for unis, my research concluded that to get into ANU, which is one of the ANU is a part of a Super 8 group in Australia. So it's like an Ivy League for Australian universities. So ANU is a part of it. And getting into ANU is not as difficult as getting into a Ivy college, but the rejection rate is around 3 or 4 out of 5 people. So you need good academic scores as well as good extracurricular activities as well in your resume or the SOP that you're writing.
Okay, so what kind of extracurricular activities would you say would help get into the program?
Well, probably if you're a cultural secretary at your college or you have taught maths or science or any other subject to a less privileged school, that would add really well to your resume. Or any social work would be great because
Okay,
foreign universities look for an all-round package and not just academic scores. Mine as well, that your scores need to be good, but it should be an all-round package.
okay. And did you have to give GMAT to get into the program?
No, just PT or I think TOEFL.
Okay, got it.
Any English assessment will do.
Okay,
I
and
think there's
is
PT, there's IELTS, and I think TOEFL.
okay, perfect. And any visa clauses attached to your program?
Um, uh, so when I applied for my course at ANU, so at that year there was a problem at NU University, and our results were delayed. So what you get, so if I've applied to a university before your final results have arrived, so they give you a conditional offer. So mine was a conditional offer that I had to score in my final exams. My scores need to be above 75% aggregate or something. I don't remember exactly, but it's a conditional offer which I needed to fulfill to cement my seat at ANU. So during our time, there was a bit of a problem at MU University, and the person who was coordinating with me and ANU, she was quite nice, and she said that even even if the results haven't arrived yet, because my academic scores were good, I could actually enroll into ANU, and I had come down to Australia before my results had arrived. So it's situational based, but in an ideal situation, they will probably give you a conditional offer if your final results haven't arrived. And if you have all your results with you, you should be good to go.
Perfect. Let's talk about the class diversity. Tell us more about the gender ratio, the kind of different nationalities that were there in your as part of the program. etc.?
Um, when you go for a master's degree in foreign universities, it applies for US as well as Australia. There are not a lot of um, Australian or American people pursuing masters. They generally do their undergrads and then they go work somewhere for 10 or 15 years and then probably apply for their masters. So in my class, if there were around 50 or 60 students, around 3 or 4 of them were Australian, and the rest of them were from mostly South Asian backgrounds like India, Sri Lanka, Nepal, China. So, and the gender ratio was nearly 50-50, or sometimes 60-40, female and the latter male.
That's cool. Let's talk about the course curriculum. So, can you tell us more about the kind of subjects you had? If there were any prerequisites that you needed to know before you took part in the program?
Well, marketing is a field that if you have a certain basic knowledge, you can actually go and pursue your master's. So, for marketing, we had so it was a 2 year course, and we had in total 4 semesters, and in each semester we had 4 different units that we had to complete successfully to move on to the next semester. And the course was laid out in a way that in the first year all the courses were similar for all of the masters of marketing, masters of management background, and after that you could actually choose a specialization and then convert your degree from masters of marketing to masters of marketing management, or masters of international business, or masters of information systems. So the general course was masters of management, and then you could choose your specialization after a year.
Okay. And from what I remember, you chose Masters in Marketing Management as the specialization course, right?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
And can you tell us why did you select that out of all others?
So my undergrad was in Bachelor's of Mass Media and specialization in advertising. So I thought advertising and marketing go hand in hand. Advertising is a subset of marketing, so I thought it'll boost my career up where I wanted it to go.
Okay, perfect. Um, what about internships? Did you have to pursue one as part of the program?
Um, well, as I said that in the first year, every subject is similar for all of the people pursuing Masters of Management.
Hmm.
And from the second year, that means the third and the fourth semester, you could actually pursue one internship, and that will substitute for a subject. So it wasn't compulsory,
Mhm.
but you can do it. And
Okay.
it's a competitive thing. So it's not like you choose that you want to have an internship. You actually apply, then they funnel down the resumes that they have selected, and then you can apply for companies. And then if you get it, you get it. And then you can substitute it for a subject, and then you're good to go. And one more thing, the
Yeah.
internship won't really affect your uh, major degree. For example, I was majoring in marketing, but you can actually choose a second major. So it would affect that. If you take an internship, you can't really have a second major. But if you don't, you can actually line up 4 different subjects to form a second specialization.
Perfect. And what were the placements like at the end of the program?
So it doesn't really work like Indian colleges where companies come and then recruit you, but there are a lot of networking events that
Yeah.
happen in different schools. So I was from College of Business and Economics. My school was College of Business and Economics. So they organize a lot of networking events where giants like KPMG, Ernst and Young, they came and they actually talked to a lot of students. So if you form a relationship with them, you can actually then try and find a job. If if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Um, Another question I had within this question was, um, like, what is the average pay that students get once they pass out from your school?
Well, so the average pay differs from in every state in Australia. In Canberra, it should be around 60 to 65 thousand Australian dollars, whereas in Melbourne, which is a bit more expensive uh, state to live in, the salary will be around 70-ish. But the
Mhm.
thing is, it nullifies and it depends on where you live. So the savings will actually be the same.
Okay, perfect. Does the university offer scholarships to incoming students?
Yes, so there are two kinds of, when I was studying back at ANU, there were two kinds of scholarship. One was provided from ANU, and the other was from my school, College of Business and Economics. So the first one, which was provided by ANU, was around 50% of the fees for the first year,
Okay,
and the second one offered by CBE, my school, was I think $10,000 off in total. I mean, I don't really remember the exact numbers, but the scholarship provided by ANU was
hmm,
a much larger one compared to College of Business and Economics. And the scholarship pattern, the the amount of discounts or the amount of waiver they offer differs from year to year.
got it. And how many students do usually get these scholarships?
Well, when it comes to the scholarship offered by ANU, the number is quite few. It's very limited because it's offered by ANU and it's throughout ANU. So the number of schools are in ANU, they give it to all of them. So when you distribute it, every school gets very little probably three or four people get that scholarship, but otherwise the College of Business and Economics, when you take that into consideration, the number is quite high. So probably in one batch around 20 to 50 students will get the scholarship.
Wow, that's pretty great. So, when you were on your journey to pursue this degree, what were some of the other universities you applied to?
So my consultant advised me to apply to five different universities and then pick and choose whichever you like. So I think I applied to RMIT, I applied to University of Sydney, I applied to Monash, University of Melbourne, and ANU. So I applied to one of the so top ranking colleges in Australia. I applied to those top five out of the group of eight.
Got you. And why did you choose ANU out of all those other universities?
Um, so, as I said, my consultant told me to narrow down all the institutes I wanted,
Yeah,
and I applied to all of them. The first institute I got an offer letter from was RMIT. The second was, I think, uh, Macquarie. Did I mention Macquarie or Deakin? I don't remember, but the second one was Macquarie or Deakin.
mm,
So both of them were not as high ranking as the other three universities. So my consultant said that we should wait it out. And the third university that accepted was ANU. And ANU wasn't really my first choice. My first choice was either Monash or University of Melbourne
hmm,
because according to my degree or my field, those were the universities that ranked higher. So I wanted to go there, but my consultant advised me that these seats fill up quite fast, and it had already been a month and a half that I'd applied to these universities, and I hadn't heard back from them. And unfortunately, as I said, in that year, the results were delayed. The Mumbai University results were delayed. So there was a chance that those institutes might have not replied back to me.
hmm.
So he said that just it's a nice institute, just accept that offer. So I went ahead for ANU. But after a month or so, I got a letter back from University of Melbourne and Monash as well. So I don't regret it, but I think I should have waited for it. So just advise that wait for it. Don't be in a hurry to accept offers.
Got you. I think that's a very valuable advice for our audience. I think we should take a break here. We have covered most of the questions related to the program. In the next part, we'll be asking you a few questions about your life at ANU. So, Salik, what were some of the things you struggled with when you shifted to Australia?
So I think the majority of the struggle and for nearly all international students is finding a place to live. For me, I think for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I stayed at YHA, which is a youth hostel in here in Australia. But the thing is, there's a certain comfortable quotient where you actually live in your room, your house. You can unpack and start to settle down. So yeah, the first 2 3 weeks were a bit rough because I was studying at ANU, and then at the same time I was coming back to a hostel where I shared the room with 6 or 8 other people. So
Mm.
yeah, getting a proper house for yourself, I think that's the first and the biggest thing that affects an international student when they reach wherever they are going.
So I take it was difficult for you to find the house in the initial days. So
Yep.
how did you find the house that you lived in after YHA?
When I actually think about it, there was one more thing that actually affected me. So I was actually
You,
I came to Canberra when so my university ANU is in Canberra. So when I reached Canberra, I came here in July of 2017. So it was quite chilly. Canberra is a very uh, weird town when it comes to weather. Either it's very cold or it's very hot. The temperature goes till 43 or 44 during summers, and it'll go down to -7 or -10 in winters. So that is one more thing that I struggled with because I was from Mumbai, and in Mumbai the weird there's no such weirdness in Mumbai. It's like hot every single time of the year. And to answer your question, so you can go through Gumtree, which is a local app here. It's like OLX, which we had back in India, where you can find houses. Otherwise, you can approach a few realtors like LJ Hooker to set you up with people. And also, there are a lot of listings on housemates.com, flatmates.com, where you can actually find a flatmate or you can find a house to rent out.
got you. And
And just to add one more thing,
okay,
the housing, if you want to live in the city, it will be much more expensive than living in a suburb. But you can also take into consideration the transport cost and the time that will require to come to uni, and then take a proper decision where do you want to live? You want to live in the city, or do you want to live outside the city in one of the suburbs? So just take that into consideration before actually going and finding a house.
okay, got you. So what, according to you, should be a student's monthly budget?
Well, that depends on how much you want to spend, but ideally, uh, if you want to stay in the city, have at least 220 to two. Actually, just go for $250 to $300 a week just for rent, which should include all the utilities. And other than that, probably $100 a week for groceries. So it should be less than 2,000 Australian dollars for a month, ideally. But depends if you're going out, if you're traveling, then though that budget will actually increase a bit.
All right. What kind of part-time jobs do you get while you're studying at ANU?
Well, yes, it is quite expensive to live here in Australia. I have a few friends who are living in US, and they are actually shocked to hear the rent I am paying in Australia. So, yeah, you can actually have or get a few part-time jobs to actually sustain yourself here. And you can actually apply for being a waiter or a delivery boy. These are the most common two jobs that you can get to actually sustain yourself.
Okay.
And that should pay depending on the hours that you're. And again, the one more thing that every international student has to take into consideration is that you are bounded by the visa that you're on, and it clearly states that you can't work more than 40 hours every fortnight. So the official pay that you're getting on your TFN, which is tax file number,
Mhm.
that should be less than the equivalent pay that you'll get in 40 hours of work. But again, being an Indian student, you can actually find some jugaad and find a few Indian people who want to pay you in cash, and then you can work more. But it depends on how you can balance your study life and your part time job.
Got you. And is there a way to get a teaching assistant or a research assistant job at your university?
Uh, yes, there is, but those are far and few. For a majority of the people, you have to go out and start looking for a place to work. The positions at libraries or being a research assistant, first of all, you need to have a good rapport with your professor at university. And then if you're lucky, if that position is out at that time, then yes, you might actually get a job there. And there, it, the pay is actually much higher than having any part-time job. But still, you're actually you won't work as much as if you go and find a part-time job outside the university. So it's a bit constricted,
Mm-hmm.
the amount of pay and the hours that you work at university. That might be a good thing or a bad thing depending on your situation. So keep that into consideration and then decide whether you want to go for a research or a teaching assistant job, or if you want to work part-time outside.
Got you. Thanks a lot for that information. Tell us about your campus. Like, are there any fun things you can do on campus?
Till the time we were there, there was a pop-up village where usually people used to hang out. There were a lot of food stalls over there. And other than that, there are two pubs inside the university, as well as the campus is absolutely huge. And there are two creeks or lakes, if you want to call them, inside the university. And it's quite beautiful. And
Mhm.
now, after the construction has been finished and it's over, the new section is absolutely amazing. It's very modern. So you have 24-hour library service over there. You can sit, study there, and there are a lot of uh, bookshops, and a lot of cafes and restaurants there as well. Inside the university, where there's pool, gymnasium, everything, and there's a pharmacy as well. So, and even if they want to go out, uh, when it comes to Canberra, there are not a lot of pubs per se.
Mhm.
So there are two or three major pubs that everyone goes to. So in Canberra, you can imagine Canberra being like a big society where nearly everyone knows some or the other person that you're hanging out with. So it's like a big, very big family. So each and every one of them comes to Mooseheads. So it's one of the largest pub in Canberra. And it's the only one, I think, which is open till 4 or 5 in the morning on Saturdays and Fridays. So yeah, if you want to enjoy your nightlife, there are a couple of pubs which are open late on Fridays and Saturdays. Other than that, there are a lot of places and mountains where you can go on hiking. And in general, in Canberra, there are a lot of lakes, and it's surrounded by mountains.
Mhm.
Canberra is in a valley, and it's surrounded by mountains. So it's very peaceful and it's very beautiful at the same time. If you want to go to Sydney, Sydney is not that far away from Canberra. It's like 2 or probably 2.5 hours away from Canberra. So if you want to go there on a weekend, you can. And if you want, there are a couple of hills. One is Telstra Tower, and another is Black Mountain, if I'm not wrong. So two of them are must see, especially at night. You can see the whole of Canberra from there. And also, uh, I kind of forgot about that beach, but it's a very nice beach, which is 3 or 4 hours away from Canberra.
Okay.
It's called Naruma Beach. Yes, it's called Naruma Beach, and
That,
it's really beautiful. It's not very tourist heavy, so it's nice and peaceful.
that's perfect. So that brings me to my final question. So at this point in time, how do you feel about your decision to pursue Masters in Management program from ANU University?
Well, uh, I feel that I did the right thing pursuing masters. I could have gotten for a I could have went for a different university, but the experience wasn't bad either. The only thing I felt lacking at ANU was that they had focused too much on evidence-based approach rather than implementing what you have learned. So all our courses, all our units were evidence-based. You had to do a lot of research, provide papers, provide references for each and every statement that you give. For example, a subject like digital marketing, where you can learn about Facebook ads and how to do your SEO and do something do something practical. But you didn't in that course. You had to actually answer questions about what conferences and theories and prove that this is equal to this. So it was more of a theoretical thing, the whole course, rather than practically implementing what you have learned. As well as, if you are a very social and outgoing person, Canberra is really not a place for you. Probably somewhere in Sydney or Melbourne will suit you more.
Mm-hmm.
As well as, there's one more big problem about Canberra. It's better for people who have PR and citizenship, because Canberra is very government heavy,
Mm-hmm.
and nearly every company. So first of all, out of the 100% companies over there, around 60 or 70% of them are government companies,
All right.
and the remaining 30, probably 20% out of those remaining 30, around 80% of them are companies that work for the government. And if you want to get a job in Canberra, it's very difficult to, because you are on your temporary residency visa and not your permanent residency visa. So they won't offer you a job because they deal with sensitive content. So it's very difficult to find a job in Canberra. And if you don't want to stay there for the next 4 or 5 years, it's better to have a university in somewhere like Melbourne or Sydney, and then probably getting a job over there, because it's difficult. After you graduate, it's a bit difficult to stay in Canberra.
Thank you, Salik, for being a part of the Uni Insider series, and
No worries,
hope to see
Pratik.
you soon. Thanks for listening to the Uni Insider series. If you have some additional questions, add them in the comments down below. If you are listening to this as a podcast, visit our YouTube channel, The Insider Talks, and add your questions under the ANU-MIM video. Thanks for watching.